Given the way those first couple of years have gone on the WNBA, Caitlin may be glad to be playing a non-contact sport here.
If you ever needed undeniable, concrete proof that the WNBA has completely fumbled the arrival of Caitlin Clark, the LPGA just served it up on a silver platter for the entire world to see. It wasn't a press release. It wasn't a shady tweet. It was a demonstration of pure class and business intelligence that exposed the basketball world's pettiness without saying a single negative word. While the WNBA spent the last 12 months filled with hard fouls, petty side-eyes, jealousy, and bizarre media narratives trying to minimize her impact, the world of professional golf took one look at Caitlin Clark and did something the basketball establishment refused to do. They treated her like the generational asset she is. Caitlin showed up to the Annika Pro-Am, and what she received wasn't just polite applause. It was a total vindication of her impact on sports culture.
Caitlin Clark playing in your Pro-Am for the second year in a row. What is the value of her presence in your tournament?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me. Yes, Damon, you're right. I mean, she had so much to the tournament. I really didn't know what to expect last year. I mean, obviously, she's talk of the town and you know, such a superstar in a lot of ways. And, you know, she added just, you know, so much, you know, excitement to the tournament. We had a lot of people come out. They were standing on the first tee at 7 a.m. waiting for her to see that, you know, the first shot. But just her engagement with the fan and just, you know, being so relatable. And I don't know, she loves the game of golf, and so glad that she wanted to come back because, you know, it brings more people to the game, brings more people to the tournament, and that's really what we're looking for.
The entire ecosystem, players, organizers, legends of the game, and even the broadcast teams delivered an overwhelming wave of positivity that exposed just how toxic her rookie season in the WNBA actually was. But behind the smiles and the golf swings, a brutal reality was exposed about the difference between a league that wants to grow and a league that is fighting its own success. What happened on that golf course didn't just make the WNBA look bad. It humiliated their entire business strategy. And the craziest part? This shouldn't be considered special treatment. This is just basic business. Let's set the stage because the context here is absolutely critical. Caitlin Clark returned to the Annika Pro-Am for the second straight year. Now in the WNBA, the return of a star often comes with questions about earning your spot or paying dues. But look at the reaction from the organizers here. Annika Skrinstam, a literal living legend of golf, someone who has accomplished more in her sport than most WNBA franchises have in their entire existence, didn't act threatened. She didn't make passive-aggressive comments. She was, quite frankly, ecstatic. When Annika was asked about the value of Caitlin's presence, she didn't dodge the question or try to pivot the attention back to the tour regulars. She openly admitted that Caitlin is the talk of the town. She acknowledged that having Caitlin there brings a level of excitement that the tournament simply cannot generate on its own.
We just didn't really know what to expect last year, and I think the response was very positive. So now we're trying to make sure that everybody gets a piece of it, but also that she can enjoy it and feel like she's having a good time. But it's just opening up to more people to see her and get a chance to get her autographs. We have so many young girls out there on that Wednesday just wanting to sign, you know, an autograph, whether they brought a, you know, basketball or a hat or something. It was just nice to see a new demographic enter the golf course.
This is what actual business leadership looks like. Annika noted that fans were lining up at the first tee at 7 a.m. Do you know how hard it is to get sports fans to a golf course at 7 a.m. for a Pro-Am? That is almost unheard of. She recognized that Caitlin's engagement with the fans, her relatability, and her genuine love for the game were gold mines for the LPGA. There was no ego involved. It was a simple, cold, hard equation. Caitlin brings people, and people bring money. It's almost baffling that a golf legend understands the business of basketball better than the actual basketball league does. Annika didn't say, "Well, I hope they stay for the real golfers." She said, "Thank you for bringing them here." It's a subtle difference in language, but it represents a massive canyon in mindset. And if you think the warm welcome was the only difference, wait until you see the numbers. Because they completely destroy the narrative that the WNBA doesn't need Caitlin Clark. We need to look at the cold, hard data because it paints a picture. that the WNBA establishment tries desperately to ignore or spin. Annika Skrenstam mentioned that Caitlyn brought more people out, but she was being incredibly modest. The ticket sales for this event didn't just tick upward, they exploded. We are talking about ticket sales rising 13 times higher than the previous year. Let that sink in. Not double, not triple. 13 times the volume. That is not a bump. That is a complete alteration of the economic landscape of the event. That is the difference between a quiet Wednesday morning and a major sporting event. It didn't stop at the gate. The media impact was just as staggering. There were nearly 400 television segments mentioning Caitlin Clark in relation to the tournament. For an LPGA event in November, that kind of coverage is usually impossible to buy. But Caitlin delivered it for free just by showing up. On social media, the engagement went nuclear. On the day of the Pro-Am alone, posts specifically talking about Caitlin generated over 18 million impressions. The tournament's official Instagram views skyrocketed by nearly 600% compared to the year prior. Website traffic surged by over 120%. Every single metric, tickets, TV, social buzz, general interest went straight into orbit the moment Caitlin stepped onto the grass. Any rational person looks at this and sees a win for everyone involved.
Who are the biggest sports stars in the world, yourself and Caitlin Clark? Describe this atmosphere.
It's crazy. I mean, that first tee was something out of a book almost. But it's so fun. It's cool to see how many people she brings together to another sport, and it's fun to hang out with her. She's super cool. You know, we saw each other actually last week at an outing. Yeah, I mean, it's nice to be alongside greats. I mean, even her teammates are super fun, so it's been a blast so far.
But as we've seen over the last year, rational isn't a word we can always apply to how Caitlin is treated in her own league. The WNBA often acts like these metrics are annoying distractions rather than the lifeblood of a professional sports league. And the difference in attitude between the athletes themselves is where things get truly revealing. The most damning contrast of the entire week and the moment that should make every WNBA veteran pause and reflect came from Nelly Korda. For those who don't follow golf closely, you need to understand who Nelly Korda is. She isn't just some player. She is the 2024 LPGA Player of the Year. She is the dominant force, the face of the tour, and arguably the best female golfer on the planet right now. She is the Aja Wilson or Breena Stewart of the LPGA. If anyone had a right to feel overshadowed, annoyed, or jealous that a basketball player was stealing the headlines at her event, it would be Nelly. She earned this stage. She put in the work. But watch how she handled it. When asked about the atmosphere and the crowd screaming for Caitlin, Nelly didn't complain. She didn't roll her eyes. She didn't make a comment about how we have been playing great golf for years. She called it crazy and something out of a book. She openly marveled at how cool it was to see so many people brought together by Caitlin. She expressed gratitude for the new eyes on the sport. She said it was fun to hang out with her.
The Mystics generally play at Care First Arena, which only holds 4,200 people, so it kind of makes sense that they would move it. But after the game, in the post-game presser, Shakira Austin made her feelings known when she told the press, "I'm hoping we can get some real support from our own fans and what we have building up. We had MVP chants for Asia a couple of games ago, which I understand, which is weird that she understands that, but okay. But it's like, we're in DC, so support us. So I'm hoping Baltimore can be an arena where we consistently play in to get those fans. But if they're not gonna cheer for us, then I don't wanna play here." She also said, "If fans were here to support us and it felt like a home game, I wouldn't mind coming out here," to Baltimore basically. "But if they're gonna be wishy-washy, then keep it in DC."
There was zero insecurity. Zero. Nelly Korda knows she is the best golfer there. And she has the confidence to know that having Caitlin Clark adjacent to her only elevates her own brand. It elevates the purse sizes. It elevates the TV ratings. It is a symbiotic relationship. Now compare that grace, confidence, and business intelligence to the WNBA. We have seen established players publicly complain about the fans Caitlin brings in. We have seen them act as if new viewers are a burden rather than the customers who pay their salaries. We've seen podcast clips where players imply that Caitlin's fans are ruining the vibe. This jealousy is exactly what is holding the league back. When your product finally goes viral, you don't insult the people who click the link. When your product the link, you welcome them. Nelly Korda gets that. The WNBA largely still does not. To understand why the LPGA's behavior felt so incredibly refreshing, we have to remember the absolute hostility Caitlin faced from certain WNBA peers regarding her fanbase. The LPGA says, "Thank you for being here." The WNBA says, "You're only welcome if you cheer for us in the specific way we want you to." The prime example of this toxic mindset came from Shakira Austin of the Washington Mystics earlier this year. It's worth revisiting this because the contrast with the golf tournament is so sharp it hurts. When the Mystics moved their game to a larger arena to accommodate the massive crowd coming to see Caitlin, Austin didn't see it as a golden opportunity to win over 20,000 new fans. She saw it as an insult to her pride. In a post-game press conference, she complained about the crowd. She said she wanted real support from their own fans. She essentially threatened that if the new fans were going to be wishy-washy, she didn't want to play in the bigger arena. She would rather play in a small, 4,000-seat gym with loyal fans than a sold-out arena filled with new people. This is the definition of a poverty mindset. You have thousands of people paying expensive ticket prices to watch you play, many for the first time. Instead of putting on a show, hitting a buzzer beater, and converting them into Mystics fans for life, you attack them for not already being there 10 years ago. It is a night and day difference from the golf world, where players understood that a fan showing up for Caitlin today might be a fan who buys a Nelly Korda hat tomorrow.
You've covered a lot of sports. Have you seen anything that you would equate this Caitlin Clark phenomenon with, either in men's sports or in women's sports previously? Someone who just has this kind of rising tide that's lifting a lot of boats around her.
Yeah, I think I touched on it briefly earlier. I think it truly is, and I'm not just saying this because we're on the Golf Channel. It truly is Tiger Woods, because I'm old enough now that I was young when Tiger was just starting and got to see what a cultural shift it was. As I said earlier, it started as just golf fans, right? And then he started to win tournaments, and it became, okay, just sports fans were tuning in. And then at a certain point, it just got to be, it is a Sunday, and Tiger Woods is playing golf, and the world is stopping because we all have to watch what might happen.
During the golf broadcast, the commentators didn't shy away from making the ultimate comparison, and it's one that usually makes WNBA pundits cringe. They asked if there was any equivalent to this phenomenon in sports history. The answer was immediate and unanimous. Tiger Woods. This is the perfect analogy. And it is the one that seems to terrify the WNBA keepers the most. When Tiger Woods exploded onto the scene in the late 90s, he didn't just appeal to golf fans. He didn't just appeal to purists. He made people who had never held a golf club in their lives rearrange their entire Sundays just to see him play. He brought a cultural shift that flooded the sport with money, endorsements, and prestige.
I do have so many people coming up to me who have never cared about any sport, let alone basketball before, who are watching the WNBA because of Caitlin Clark, because she is that phenomenon.
Caitlin is doing the exact same thing for women's basketball. We have seen the ratings. When Caitlin plays, viewership records are shattered. When she is eliminated or not playing, the ratings collapse by over 50% almost instantly. There are people walking up to broadcasters admitting they have never watched a minute of basketball in their lives. But they are glued to the screen for Caitlin Clark. She is the Tiger Woods of the WNBA. The golf world is smart enough to admit this parallel and ride the wave. They aren't afraid of it. The WNBA, however, seems determined to pretend the wave doesn't exist. They fear that admitting Caitlin is the primary driver of their success somehow diminishes everyone else. They want to believe it's a collective effort. But the numbers don't support that. It was genuinely shocking to hear such honest commentary on the Golf Channel, because we have been conditioned to expect the opposite from networks like ESPN regarding the WNBA. Throughout the last season, there has been a concerted, almost coordinated effort by major sports media to distort the reality of the Caitlyn economy. You will see them twist statistics constantly. They will compare 2025 projections to 2023 numbers, completely skipping over the 2024 anomaly to make it look like the league's growth is organic and steady. They want you to believe that the league was ready to explode anyway, and that Caitlyn is just one of many factors.
A tough year in terms of injury. Does that mean you've played a little bit more golf this year?
Unfortunately, because I've played less, just because I haven't been able to get out there with some of the injuries that I was dealing with, but now feeling back to 100%.
But the LPGA event stripped that narrative bare. The spike in interest for this pro-am wasn't gradual. It wasn't organic growth over 5 years. It was immediate, violent, and specifically tied to Caitlyn's arrival. The ticket sales jumped 13x in 1 year. That isn't a trend. That is a person. The WNBA and its media partners can try to spin it all they want. They can try to hide the attendance numbers or talk about growth percentages without context. But the fans aren't stupid. We know why the arenas are full. We know why the private jets are suddenly affordable for the league. We know why the TV deals are tripling. The golf ecosystem embraced this reality, creating cinematic edits, highlighting Caitlyn from start to finish and putting her face everywhere. They weren't ashamed of it. They capitalized on it. While the WNBA as a league might be struggling to come to terms with its new reality, things are looking decidedly different for the Indiana Fever. The vibes at the golf tournament gave US a sneak peek into the team chemistry that is going to drive the franchise forward. And it's very good news for Fever fans. Caitlyn wasn't alone at the tournament. She brought teammates Sophie Cunningham and Lexi Hull as her caddies. They were rocking custom Fever-inspired caddy bibs, laughing, and creating content. This is massive. It shows that within her own squad, the jealousy narrative simply doesn't exist. They are embracing the spotlight together.
I think she just elevates everyone who's around her. She's a phenomenal player, generational player, and I think everyone sees that. We missed her out on the court this year, but, depending on the CBA and what's going on, hopefully we're all together again. But I think the thing about Caitlyn she hit is she's just a great person. She's fun, she's silly, kind of still just a kid, and so a lot of people see her in a serious light, but we kind of get to see the goofy side of her.
And we got some crucial news updates during the event. First, Caitlyn confirmed she is back to 100% health. Remember, she played a grueling collegiate season where she broke the all-time scoring record, went straight into the draft, and played a full WNBA season with almost no break. She was dealing with nagging injuries all year. Now, she is rested. She is healed. That is a scary thought for the rest of the league who couldn't stop her when she was tired. But even more interesting is the Sophie Cunningham situation. Just a week or two ago, Sophie sounded like she was testing free agency waters. She gave quotes saying she could end up anywhere. But seeing her caddying for Caitlyn, wearing team gear, and talking about running it back, signals a complete 180. She knows where the fun is. The Annika Pro-Am was more than just a celebrity golf outing. It was a case study in sports marketing and basic human decency. It showed us exactly what it looks like when a sport has the confidence to welcome a superstar without insecurity. The LPGA players, organizers, and fans created an environment of celebration, respect, and excitement, things that were sorely missing from Caitlyn's rookie year in the WNBA. The contrast is brutal. And honestly, it's embarrassing for the basketball establishment. No one is asking the WNBA to bow down to a rookie. No one is asking them to rig games for her. But there is a massive difference between competitive fire and self-sabotage. The LPGA proved that you can honor your legends, respect your current stars like Nelly Korda, and still fully embrace the new phenomenon that is changing the landscape. The WNBA has a long off-season to think about this. They can continue to be bitter about the new fans. They can continue to gatekeep the sport and pretend the ratings would be this high without her. Or they can look at the explosion of interest on that golf course and realize that the rising tide really does lift all boats, but only if you don't poke holes in them out of spite. It was refreshing to see Caitlin treated like the star she is. But does this give me hope that the WNBA will change its ways? Honestly, I'm not holding my breath. But I want to know what you think. Will the WNBA ever drop the ego and learn from the LPGA? Or are we in for another season of drama and resentment? Let me know in the comments below. And if you're still here, drop a W in the comments because you're a winner for sticking around for the truth. I'll see you in the next one.